The truth of the matter is the historical figures don't realize they're having pivotal discussions while they're having it.
Correct.
So it is as simple as a conversation in a library while somebody hands somebody a book.
Wait a minute, we are shooting a scene that's showing the first rocket launch. We used to feel overwhelmed. Imagine what these men must have felt.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the two of us. When I say it's inseparable in the sense that I see the whole performance of the entire ensemble as one, because we're drawing so much from each other.
I would request you to watch the show again. There is a mistake. And there is a mistake.
So far, only one person on Twitter has found it. One person.
This is super exciting because this is our first after party, and the idea was really to just have audiences talk to artists, about why you made the choices you made. I'm going to kick it off with a question for you, Abhay. You said in many interviews that the lives of these two men, of Homi Bhabha and Vikram Sarabhai, were already so fascinating. There was, of course, the science, there was the romance, there was the espionage. You said you didn't have to add a lot. My question is, how did you curate these lives? How did you decide? And we know there's going to be a season 2, but how did you decide that this is what I'm going to be focusing
on? Well, actually, we decided that, these are the events that we need to see in the show. Be it the launch of the first nuclear reactor, be it the inauguration of TIFR or PRL, or the launch of the first rocket launch that happened in India. So we had these key milestones that we had to hit in the show. So every decision, every choice that we made in terms of the dialogue, the story, the character arcs, for all the characters, the real ones and the fictional ones, were in order to ensure that the characters reach those milestones. So of course, as I've been saying this for so long that I've been only able to say about 25% of these people's lives, because their contribution is such that you couldn't put everything in one show. And on top of it, we were talking about multiple personalities in one show. So as I said, when we realized that these are the milestones that we have to hit. So now, if Homi and Vikram are fighting in the beginning of the show, and they're talking about the need for an atomic bomb, it all culminates towards the end, where both of them come together to do something. Both of them realize that this is something that has to be done to ensure that we can do what we want to do for the nation. So every decision, every choice, every dialogue, everything that we've done in the show is to ensure that we reach from a milestone to the other milestone. In the middle, adding up the drama and with characterizations and the human elements that we added in the show.
Okay, so I have to ask, was there anything that got away? Was there something that just broke your heart because you couldn't have it in here because it didn't make sense for that specific milestone?
Yeah, so I think the fact that we couldn't show that Dr. Bhabha got the Padma Vibhushan is something that I couldn't show. The fact that he was nominated for a Nobel and he didn't win one, I thought would have been a really good sequence to show. But I couldn't, because I had to move on from 1952 to 1956 because I couldn't show that year. So there are certain things like that. I couldn't show the inauguration of Darpan because that was in 1949, and I really, really wanted to show the inauguration of Darpan, but I couldn't because, of course, there was too much to pack into those 8 episodes, and so I had to, unfortunately, miss out on those.
Jim, you said that playing this role was pleasurable torture, which I love.
Actually, I say that about all roles, but yeah.
So this was not only for this one. But tell me, you said you were really picky about your tie and your cufflinks. And that's fascinating to me. Like, why were you picky about this?
No. I drove the costume team and Abhay completely insane about costumes in general. The only fight me and Abhay have ever had on set where I've come and I've been like, or whatever, and walked off, and he's been like, should I cancel the shoot? Or whatever. So the only fight we've ever had has been about the costume, actually. And of course, absolutely zero of my issues are visible on screen. Like zero. They look incredible. So it was completely me overreacting, of course. I'm miserable if the shoot has gone badly because I couldn't perform. I'm just miserable. I want to go home and cry. Um, so that's with a pleasurable torture thing, of course. But as far as the other thing goes, is that they would give me the suit, but they would lay out a bunch of ties and cufflinks. So I got to choose my own ties and cufflinks during the day. That was all that was referring to.
Okay, Ishwak, you had to get your audition was actually approved and your casting was approved by Malika Sarabhai. I want to know what was going through your head when you did the last audition before you were cast. Like, what did that mean that the family has to approve?
Wow. Now it seems pretty daunting and unnerving, but I never thought about it. Thanks. I mean, I don't know if someone would have put this thought in my head, I would have been probably pretty nervous about it. I never thought about it. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is that and I'm just diving deep into it. It's what this guy is, what the lines are saying and how it's sort of coming to me, how I relate to it, the part of me that relates to the text. That's what it's about in the moment. I mean, whether it's an audition or a scene or, I read a script for the first time. And the fact that it was, Malika was involved and, she was there, it was kind of a reassuring thing. And I felt nice about it. I felt pretty amazing about it because I've known her for a while. I've also happened to perform at Darpana. So knowing the family, it wasn't just a usual thing because, like I've known these people and now I'm going to play, and for us, like all of us, it was like when I say us because my theatre group used to work very closely with Malika's group. And it just became like this thing that, wow, I mean, I'm playing Vikram Sarabhai. It's like he's the head of the family. And we all kind of, whenever we get together, we talk about, I mean, they tell stories about Vikram Bhai and, Mrinalini Sarabhai. And it just, yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing from that point of view. But yeah, I mean, I never really thought about it while performing. It was never an added pressure or anything like that.
Okay, I'm going to get audiences to start coming in. Akshata, can you please ask your question?
My question is for Jim. I was wondering, hello, very lovely to meet you. I was wondering
lovely to meet you, Akshata.
If Homi existed now, or if you existed when Homi existed, would you guys be homies?
I reckon he would have been a slightly. I reckon I would have been too nervous to really talk to him in any kind of a meaningful way. Whenever they ask, like, you meet the great people, you sit them down in a room. It's like, I don't know what I would say to them. I would just want to watch what they did. I'd like to have a drink with them, maybe chit chat about stuff. But would we be homies? I think we'd be in very different fields. If he came to watch movies, if he came to watch plays, maybe we could chat after that. Maybe he'd have something to say about that. I think we'd probably connect on modern Indian art as well. Whenever you do a character, it's always going to be some vague mix of yourself and the script and the director and what you know about the person already. And, everything, when my mom was talking to me about it, she was like, you swear as Homi Bhabha, he would be a gentleman. He would never swear. And then I was talking to my uncle about my grandfather who opened an art gallery in Bombay called Pandol Art Gallery. And I was like, because she was like, my father never swore. And then I talked to my uncle, who's the son, and he's like, he swore all the time. He wouldn't swear in front of her. So I don't know. I don't know if we would be homies or not. It would be my honor, I suppose, if he considered me a friend. Apart from that, maybe he's a bit more, maybe he's more serious than me. These nation builders, these people who take what is in their head and make it a reality. That's something else. That's more like Abhay. actually, because this show was in Abhay's head and he made it a reality. No, it's true. It's true. It's true.
Akshata,
I'd like to probably would have got along with him.
No, I'd like to just add on to this, Akshata. Jim, I think he's in Sri Lanka and he's feeling very humble. So that's humility talking more than anything else. But I'll tell you honestly, as much as I researched about Dr. Bhabha, I thought that he was the smartest man in the room. He had like a very wicked sense of humor. As far I think, we've read some letters that he wrote, and the letters that he's written, I say this to a lot of people, that one letter of his is better written than all 16 episodes of my show. One letter. He was such a good writer, such a good orator. Why I'm telling this to you is because if you meet Jim in real life, he is a very good orator. He is a very intelligent man, and he has a wicked sense of humor. So, in a lot of ways, Jim is quite a lot. And of course, he doesn't know shit about nuclear science, nuclear physics.
Yeah.
But no, I think he and Homi would have been homies. I really think so.
I think so. Don't make me cry.
Thank you all for making this come to life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
One of the things I found most interesting was the fact that they weren't perfect, that they weren't infallible. You talk about him swearing, but that there's that scene after his father's death when he's just like fallen apart. And that was so moving. Or the fact that Vikram Sarabhai did fall in love with somebody else who wasn't his wife. And it was very brave, I thought, to, because there's such a tendency, especially with the biopic genre, to just have like these there's spotless men who can do no wrong. Who is that? That's nobody.
That's nobody.
Yeah.
And I genuinely loved that about it.
Can I tell one anecdote?
Please.
About the scene after the father's death, and he's been holed up for a while, and all of that kind of stuff. So me and Abhay were workshopping that scene. We come in, we read, we try to put it on its feet, get a vague sense of blocking so that he can decide camera and etc. And we're doing it well in advance before the shoot. Also, I'm so nervous about difficult lines, so I really want it in advance so I can learn it properly, so it can sound effortless, especially with this guy that should sound like liquid gold is coming out of his mouth, And so I remember we were workshopping in the MA video archive and the security cameras or whatever. There must be one thing of me hugging Abhay from behind and just putting my head into his back and feeling like I'm gonna cry, and he was in front of me, tearing up,
pretending to cry.
Like, that's it. This is it. That's the one. This is the one.
But it was lovely.
This romantic angle between the two of you. Okay. And for some reason, they kept me out of all these sessions. Intensive workshops.
We've also had these sessions.
It was Pepsi and
we've also had these hugging sessions.
If you awkwardly were sitting in the corner watching this hug, it would have been very strange. Why haven't you helped your friend,
Okay, so I am now asking Prasad Alay. Prasad Alay, can you ask your question?
I will.
Out of space.
Yeah, my question is to Ishwak that we know, we have read it. Dr. Sarabhai's character was quite calm and pleasant, and he didn't have that chest thumping and jingoism dialogue. So, what's the prep that you took for preparing for the role that you portrayed so beautifully?
Whether it's a certain emotion or something, I kind of don't point on the effect of it beforehand that this is something that needs to be achieved. We all have different understand of, kind of experience different emotions, and they're very much a part of us. It just the prep was more wholesome, and this wasn't like an aim. I wasn't aiming to make it calm. It just it was an organic thing. It's always an organic journey. This is a man who was a Gandhian, whose family, as he brought up, and he was brought up in a Jain culture, and the ones who are pretty take their culture seriously. In the Ahmedabadi culture, which is a very, I would say, where philanthropy, where a sense of community, doing good for others, the ascetics, and the people who are underprivileged, that is a very important part of their life, the community. And these were the most the important people, the Mahajans, or what are they called? There's a term for them. The ones who kind of supposed to be taking care of the community. So it was that kind of a family, had a legacy of sort of taking care of the people and doing a lot for the community. So those values, and then of course, as he went about his education, the Gandhian influence, the influence of Tagore, the influence of Einstein, as he then in his more mature days, the kind of science he chose, which was a new kind of science. When you have, and then the list is pretty long, so I'll just cut it short and give you a sense of it. That when you have that kind of an influence in your life, there is no space for it sort of drove me in a certain direction. He could have been very headstrong. He could have been, as you said, chest thumping. But because of the basic tenets of Sarabhai, the keystone of of his edifice, of Vikram Sarabhai's edifice, was he turned out to be someone who had this kind of a demeanor.
Yeah, in some scenes, the silence spoke better than the dialogue. Your scenes with Jim were my favorite scenes.
Yeah. Thank you. Vanshika, can you ask yours?
So my question was, all this time period, it must have been very hard to get all the settings right, the fine details, and if any mistakes, irregularities made it into the final episodes.
So, okay, first of all, we did a lot of research, of course, and credit where it's due. Our production designer, our cinematographer, our costume designer, they spent about a year researching, figuring out what's right, what's not, in terms of just the era. And since it's also a scientific show, so we also had to make scientific props, rockets, reactors, and everything. And we refer to archival footage, actual images, actual schematics of all these things as much as possible. And the rocket that you see is an actual rocket that was built by the production designer, which was an exact replica in terms of size and everything. The size of the nuclear reactor that Homi Bhabha inaugurates is, I think, almost the same size as the one that is actually there in BARC. So we were very clear about all those things in terms of getting the equipment, since we know that we live in an age where people can simply pause and find out a problem and then put it on social media, and then we look like idiots. But to you, Vanshika, I would request you to watch the show again. There is a mistake, and there is a mistake.
So far, only one person on Twitter has found it. One person.
Yeah.
Well, it would be easier to go on Twitter and then obsessively.
We're talking about the same thing, no, Abhay?
Yes, we are. We're talking about the same thing. Okay. He tagged all of us. That guy who found that mistake.
Yeah.
He tagged all of us. So to all the viewers, please watch it again, and then please diss us on Twitter. We'll be very happy to.
Will do.
No, but Abhay, since you brought up somebody dissing, right? There has been, guys, a fair amount of criticism of the fictional characters, right? Yes. Mehndi Raza, there have been people from the scientific community who've said that the science is really not up to speed. Right. I remember, hold on, I had written this down. I will tell you. Okay, so there is Geeta Aravamudan, I'm mangling that last name, whose husband Aravamudan was one of Dr. Sarabhai's first recruits. Right. And she said that she was appalled at the liberties that have been taken. She said maybe they should have given them fictional names as well and done away with the pretense. Tell me, for all three of you, but starting with you, Abhay, what is your response to that?
See, when we started making the show, I knew that some sort of criticism was surely going to come our way. I knew at least. And I respect Geeta ma'am's opinion. She's entitled to her opinion. And I think that she's right, because There are certain things that we, of course, changed. And see, I mean, that when you tell the story of famous people, everyone who probably must have come in touch with that person has an image of that guy. If tomorrow I want to make a show on you, I will, base it on my interactions with you. But somebody who knows you a little better will probably come and tell me that, no, this was not how Anupama was. So I get it. I understand that totally. But having said that, every decision that was taken, every choices, scripting, dialogue, as I've been saying this, was to ensure that we tell the story in a way that becomes relatable to most of the younger generation out there in the world today. Before the show would have come out, I'm sure, and I don't want to take any credit for this, please don't think that I'm taking any credit for this. I think our humble attempt with the show was to reacquaint the audiences with these men and their contribution to the society and building the nation as we know it today. If I had put up a picture of Dr. Bhabha and Dr. Sarabhai in a classroom, a month before this, I don't think people would have noticed. That's how I used to begin all my presentations when I was pitching the show. That I used to put up pictures of film stars and cricketers, and then I used to put up pictures of Dr. Bhabha and Dr. Sarabhai. And people, you'll be appalled to know that they didn't know who these men were, which according to me is criminal. So the idea was to reach out to the younger generation and ensure that, they at least come to know about these men. Now, how do I make it more enjoyable? How do I make it more relatable so that a person who's a 20-year-old person who's he's not interested in science, he wants to see a story of two great men who were just like you and me, but they aspired to do bigger things, who dreamt bigger. So that was the reason. But having said that, I don't want to undermine anything that other people have said. Geeta Aravamudan, I respect her criticism. I think she, of course, knows one version of Dr. Sarabhai, which also must be true. But I had Malika Sarabhai, who was always with me throughout the scripting process, throughout the filmmaking process. She's choreographed the sequences. She's told me that Papa cannot perform this way. Papa has to be this way. Papa can't shout. Papa can't do this. So I can only be listening to one person, honestly. I cannot be listening to so many people and yet weave it into a story that sort of becomes an enjoyable, relatable, inspirational tale. So that's something that I aspired to do in terms of so that we tell the audiences to sit up and notice, really. Now the second season, now that we know that people have sat up and noticed, we will maybe not take as many liberties as we did in the first season. But I'll also take this opportunity, and I don't really like to pat my back for some things at all. But I'll also take this opportunity to tell you that where people have also said that the science is wrong in certain places, there have been people who've reached out to me, other scientists, nuclear physicists, who've not been writing articles. I was recently doing a talk at Soho House, and there was a NASA scientist who had just retired and come back. And he was all praises. Of course, a couple of things here and there were not right, but he was all praises for at least there's so many things that we got right. There's a scholarship that somebody started in Bangalore in Dr. Sarabhai's name. They're willing to fund 9 children. Yeah, they were willing to fund 9 children's education after they saw Rocket Boys.
That's wonderful.
I guess that was the intention to ensure that we tell people that this is what these men have managed to do, and not really stir up any controversy. The intent was to tell that these men were really, really ahead of their times, and they've really contributed in making the nation as it is today.
But I want to kind of add one thing to it, and it's probably not saying that everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I think it's very important to also understand that what is the domain, what is the idea behind telling a story. First of all, what is the cardinal point? Have we got that right? Whether it's the science, whether it's the family life, whether it's the interpersonal relationships, the struggles, the sense of that time and space. Was that right? What is the intention of showing that is that intention honest? Even if it's not a 100% correct, what is that intention? Is Abhay's intention of the way he's written? Is it not an honest effort? I think it is. It is the most honest writing that I've read in a long time. Or it's something really that's coming from that point of view. And every scene, every dialogue. I mean, I see so many things. Like if he's picking up a rocket, get the sense. I mean, it is not probably exactly how that the where, how, what, the specific, without getting to the specific. It's the idea of it. We have to see it metaphorically. The fact that Vikram Sarabhai did mentor and see his wanted a breed of younger scientists, and he encouraged them. That's what the entire Vikram Sarabhai and Abdul Kalam track is all about, right, Abhay?
Yes, absolutely.
That sense, and Kalam being that one person who's representing that entire breed. We cannot have an army of people coming and showing, documenting. Otherwise, then it would be a documentary. Correct. It is not. It is, so one has to kind of see those as symbols signifying certain aspect of that life of their time.
Yeah.
I mean, they've removed my brother, Dr. Homi Bhabha's brother, entirely from the series. I mean, the brother doesn't even exist, whereas his contributions to arts and culture in Mumbai are enormous. But the focus was on these two people. And it's okay,
Yeah.
It's okay. I think it's okay.
Yeah, the other thing was, of course, the introduction of Kalam, which also there was a fair amount of criticism. But for me, that was the moment. I got teary instantly, and I didn't even know why. I was like already teary. I didn't know this person, but the moment he said his name, I was already emotional, right? I remember Raju Hirani telling me once that never let truth get in the way of a good story. So I think we have to go with that. Malika Srivastava, can you ask your question, please?
My question is for Abhay sir. I want to know the casting story behind Regina Cassandra as Mrinalini Sarabhai. She was just flawless and calming throughout the series. And it was a treat to watch her playing such a milestone character effortlessly. I want to know more about her.
I think you are absolutely right. Regina is just phenomenal as an actor, So the casting process was, it was very easy for me. Find one of the most beautiful people in the country, who also knows Bharatnatyam, who's from South India, and who's also a great dancer. She's a very charming person that way. She has very expressive eyes, but she used to come on set, and she's an actor who's just so spontaneous. She comes in and she's just sitting by your side on the monitor, and she's laughing. And the moment you put her in front of the camera, she's suddenly Mrinalini Sarabhai from Regina Cassandra. To be able to portray somebody who is so dignified, is so sure about what she wants, and yet not come across as somebody who's trying to stop Sarabhai from doing what he wants to do and everything. I mean, to stand her own, it was a tough role, and I think she's really managed to do that very well. So yeah, credit to her. She was great. We all love her.
I think so much of the series' success depends on the chemistry between Jim and Ishwak, right? So I want to understand, how did the three of you create that?
It was workshops helped a lot, really. I think, and credit to Jim for this, because Jim was the one who really pushed all of us to, and of course Ishwak also loves to rehearse a lot. And if you read his scripts, you'll never know where the dialogues are written, because he's made so many notes on it, so that you don't know where the actual dialogues are. But Jim is somebody who
and Jim might want to add, sometimes he even confuses his notes with the actual dialogues and thinks the other person would also have those notes.
I'd be like, is that the cue, or is that a random Sarabhai thought?
No, honestly, I think the workshops really helped. Really helped.
And Jim and Ishwak, when the two of you were like Abhay said, you're in this scene, you're improvising dialogue because by now you've completely soaked in these characters. Were there moments when you didn't agree with what had to be said? Because these are two very different personalities, right? These men were diametrically opposite.
No, I think that's true. Their means, their methods were different, but they wanted to get to the same place. The destination was the same in the sense that they both were men of science. I think that's one thing that I that how I'd like to describe them, men of science. I mean, that was their religion, that was who they were, at their core. And it's just that, I know where he's coming from, even if we don't agree on something. The two aspects to it. One was that I always saw his point of view because it was an intelligent thought. And he said it, he said those lines like he meant it, and I knew where he was coming from. So, and that's why you see a sort of a restraint, because it is compelling. It makes me think, is he right? I don't agree with it. I don't subscribe to that, but this is what this man is saying. And I wouldn't just say that, hey, you know what, this is rubbish. That's not that. It was a strong thought. It was coming from the right place. Those kind of conversations go on pretty much to the end until I have a sense of realization, a certain realization, when we both sort of join hands and decide to move together in the same direction.
Did you ever, did either one of you ever genuinely, honestly, ever have a moment of insecurity that the other person might walk away with the glory?
Insecurity is about like who's going to do what and where. And I just think we were just trying to make the best scenes as the show was continuing. And, we knew we had separate bits. So I was just really excited to come and watch the show and see his like separate bits, Atira. I didn't know anything about that. The scenes with Mrinalini, I had not seen any of them. And it was more like, in my opinion, it was more excitement to see the bits that he did where I wasn't there, because so much hinges on our relationship. It's like, hey, what did you do when I wasn't there? It was more like that, I feel.
So, I'm pretty happy if he walks away with all the glory, but because I think one, he deserves it. Second, I think that the performances are inseparable. I would have been pretty, I would have been worried if people were to say, who's worse? Now, if someone says, who's better? It's, to me, I always saw it in a sense that, which I told Abhay after seeing one of the scenes. I said, I'm so fortunate to be doing this with such a great ensemble. And it's not just the two of us. When I say it's inseparable, in the sense that I see the whole performance of the entire ensemble as one, because we're drawing so much from each other, from the it's a collaboration, from the writing, from the filmmaker, from all of us. That's how it is. It's like it's an integrated unit.
It is.
One or two.
That
Beyond's got to sort of incorrectly.
I'd also like to add to what Ishwak is saying. I really feel that the show, if it's good or bad, if whatever the show is right now, is because of the fact that, be it every cast member, be it every crew member, I know it's the most typical thing to say, but I think that everybody on the set, I like to believe, for 1 year was solely committed to telling an honest story. I'd like to believe that there was no insecurity while shooting, at least, or later as well, as these people are telling me, because I think all of us were very, very committed to just being honest. Everybody was very honest. It was a very honest set. I like.
Nice.
Yeah. I agree. I was thinking for another scene, Ishwak. The one where we have that speech about where we have the conflict about the Gandhian, you going to the rally or not? When I watch the series, there are more shouty bits and funnier bits and all of that. But actually, that's my favorite scene between the two of us. It wasn't a angry or a conflict-based scene. It was just two people discussing their theories on this particular thing, while the power dynamic was also being explicitly made clear with who was handing who the books. And the power dynamic was made even clearer that this person is going to eventually be his equal. Because the way you took the books was not servile or insulted or disappointed or feeling, instead you took it completely in your stride that just now I'm the one holding the books. And you even managed to make it funny. You managed to make it even funny while dealing with these otherwise very serious and really pivotal moments. But the truth of the matter is the historical figures don't realize they're having pivotal discussions while they're having it.
Correct.
So it is as simple as a conversation in a library while somebody hands somebody books.
Yeah.
None of that would have been possible without one Abhay deciding that it's okay. These impulses are okay. And we should see them through.
Also, we're talking about a time when, discourse, there was a time when people could have a discussion without really fighting.
Respect each other's opinions.
And I think that was also a very key factor in most of the scenes that we did, because these people don't agree. And as you correctly said, that they have diametrically opposed ideologies.
Correct. It's civilized dissent.
It's civilized dissent. Correct.
Yeah. Okay, Ritika, Patapu, please ask your question.
My question was about this particular scene in which Homi attends Pipsi's wedding, and his first dialogue is, "What's happening is someone getting married." And I love how that scene opened with something funny, because the shift from humor to the intensity of lost love was very artistic, and it's not something that's very commonly portrayed. I just wanted to ask if it was a dialogue that was in the script, or if it was improvised upon, because I know that in Maiden Heaven also the line, "Do you want me to slit my throat?" was improvised upon, and it was so dark and it's so beautiful. And I wanted to know if it was improvised upon or not.
It was improvised. The first dialogue, what's happening? Is it a wedding? That was a line that Jim came up on the moment. It wasn't workshopped as well. It was something that, a scene like that couldn't have been workshopped anyway. So yeah, I mean, I think he came on set and he just felt like saying it, and we kept it. So so many of the dialogues that you see in the show have been improvised on set, and I've kept them. So yeah, and you make a very good point that the fact that the scene starts with a dialogue like that, so that the thing that he says after is more impactful. There was enough for me to keep going back to her, but never enough to make her stay. I think, so credit to this genius man.
I'm a huge fan of Jim Sarbh. I think I keep commenting. I'm such a huge fan. Sorry.
Thanks, Ritika.
Thank you. Parvati Mohan, please ask your question.
Well, I'll start off with a comment. I really love how the show depicted patriotism, which is that, do your job, do it well, and do it with good intentions sincerely. And, that's patriotism as the show depicted. So what I wanted to know was this a conscious narrative choice that was made, or was it just a reflection of who these people were in real life?
So it was a conscious choice for sure. By the nature of what these people managed to do in their time on the planet, it had to be a patriotic show, because these people built the nation as we know it today. So we really didn't have to up the drama by adding chest-thumping dialogues of how we'll make sure that India becomes the most powerful country in the world or whatever. We will make sure that people just look at these men as who they are, and if they think that these men were great and they were patriotic, great. But that wasn't the intention, to portray them as patriotic men.
It was at the birth of the country. These people were around then, before then, and after. There's no way to escape their influence there, and what it means to look at a flag that is flying for the first time. I feel that it would make anyone feel things, and
precisely. There's a spirit of the age. That's in terms of.
There's a very famous saying by Luigi Pirandello: "Art does, but dwarf a tragic life." I like to believe that art does, but dwarf the realities of life. No matter how hard we tried, you can never recreate the birth of a child. You can never recreate the death of a family member. You can never recreate the independence. The first time two men must have seen the flag. We tried very hard. We tried extremely hard, and we used to feel that so many times, when we were shooting that scene that Jim was talking about how the Indian nuclear reactor is about to be built. And, while shooting that scene and while shooting the first rocket launch, there were times that we used to feel overwhelmed. Wait a minute, we are shooting a scene that's showing the first rocket launch. We used to feel overwhelmed. Imagine what these men must have felt. Imagine what these people must have felt. It's the first nuclear reactor of Asia. To be able to live that, we used to feel overwhelmed. I'm telling you, there were so many moments that we used to feel overwhelmed. India's independence. What are we talking about?
I can't watch the show without crying multiple times.
I think that, in fact, is one of the best things about the series is that, it's not obviously shouting it out, but it very, very gently sort of kind of asks, like, what have you done lately? That's little outside of yourself, which is just wonderful. Abhay, Ishwak, Jim, this was so much fun, and genuinely, I'm sure I speak for everybody on the Zoom call. Cannot wait for season 2.
Thank you.
When is it dropping? Any hints? Can you give us any hints? Kab aa raha hai?
It has to do with one of the personalities' birthdays.
Oh, I like it. Okay, folks, go out there and Google kiska birthday kab aa raha hai, and let's figure this out quickly. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.